In Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1, King Solomon refers to a very common issue that can build a person's life or can destroy a person's life. In all human communication, whether it is in marriage, in employer-employee relations, among friends at work, between parents and children, naturally there is also criticism. Not always what one person does is pleasing in the eyes of another, and there is criticism. And this is a natural thing. When it comes to criticism in workplaces, between neighbors, in marriage, human nature is that there are usually more boundaries in this matter. But between parents and children, things can reach very low levels because the child is helpless. And if the parents do not pay attention to how to speak to him in the right way, in a healthy way, they might, heaven forbid, cause him terrible harm for his whole life. But the principles that we will now see are true not only toward children, but in general in all human communication. When there is criticism, there are claims of one person toward another, how to do it correctly. We should remember that in the Torah it is written, do not wrong one another. In one place it is written, do not wrong your brother. In another place, do not wrong your fellow. Fraud is deceiving another person unfairly. Why does the Torah say this twice? One time in monetary laws, that it is forbidden for a person to cheat, to deceive another person, to trick him. And the other place, the Torah speaks about verbal wrongdoing. It is forbidden for a person to cause pain to his fellow with words unfairly. If he does not deserve this pain, and you said it to him, you must know. You are transgressing a prohibition from the Torah. How careful one must be. And in the Talmud it is written, a man must always be careful regarding the feelings of his wife, that is, not to cause his wife pain with words, because since her tears come easily, her pain comes quickly. Because a woman reaches tears more easily than a man, therefore a man must be more careful than a woman toward her husband, that he should not cause his wife pain. She also needs to be careful, but he must be even more careful. So the sage is warned. Here King Solomon says, a wise son listens to his father's discipline, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke, as is his way. With brief words he folds in much wisdom. He is very precise in every word, and he says, when you see a wise son, you see him successful, balanced, knowing how to conduct himself in every area. This is thanks to the discipline of his father. That is, when he was a child, the father knew how to give him discipline in the right way. Discipline comes from the word for suffering, something that causes a person discomfort. Discipline is like binding a person's hands. But here the meaning is not, heaven forbid, that the parent is cruel to the child. Rather, discipline, as written here, the discipline of the father, means simply that when you speak to the child that what he did now was an action not right to do, but another action should be done instead, this itself causes him discomfort. It pains him in his heart. He wants to hear only compliments and only praise. Therefore, a parent who is wise always knows to give balance. For every one criticism, he has at least 5 compliments. And this is also true in marriage, in peace in the home. There are couples where each side hears from the other only complaints, never a good word. There are children who hear from parents or from teachers only complaints, never a good word. And when you ask the person who always complains about the child, or about the wife, or about the husband, is everything really negative? Does this person have no good qualities? The answer is always, of course he has good qualities. My child has many qualities. My wife has qualities. My husband, so why don't you say it? The feeling of the person is that the good qualities of the other person, the way he behaves correctly, is taken for granted. That's how it should be, so I don't need to praise it. But when something is not right, then I have a reason to criticize. And this is a big mistake. We have mentioned many times, when a person praises another, It is like depositing money in his account. A husband praises his wife, a wife her husband. You deposit money in the account. A child receives compliments. You deposit money in the account. Criticism is withdrawing money from the account. When you have remarks, even if you do it in the best way, still criticism is withdrawing money. What happens in a bank account when you only withdraw money and never deposit? He ends up in the red, and then the whole system can collapse. Communication breaks down, love fades, joy disappears, there's pain, sadness. A person starts to feel, everyone sees me as negative, and this builds up inside until it finally explodes. A wise person remembers, for every criticism, give several compliments. That's what keeps things balanced. And when criticism is needed, the question is how to give it. King Solomon says, a wise son listens to his father's discipline. If you see a son who grows up wise, it's because his father knew how to guide him the right way. The father loves his child. He wants the best for him. So his words are always measured. He thinks, how should I say this? Raising a child is like polishing a diamond. Anyone who's seen diamond polishers at work knows how careful they are. They hold the stone gently. They use the finest tools. Today there are lasers, but in the past everything was done by hand. You'd see them with tiny chisels and hammers, shaping the diamond with delicate, precise movements. Now imagine someone comes to the job, carrying a suitcase full of sledgehammers. He pulls out a 5-kilo hammer, a giant chisel, and gets ready to smash the diamond. The boss would throw him out on the spot. If you want to ruin the diamond, that's how you do it. But if you want it to shine, you work gently. Children are the same. You need to know the limits. Say only what needs to be said. Choose your words carefully. In the complete guide to child education, we listed many verses where King Solomon teaches how to speak to a child. Let's look at a few of them. One verse says, "My son, don't forget my Torah. Let your heart keep my commandments, for they will add length of days, years of life, and peace to you." Solomon always adds the words, "my son." Why? Because he wants the child to know, I'm not talking to you as a tyrant or dictator. I'm your father. I love you. I want the best for you. That's why I'm telling you this. And he makes it clear, if you listen to me, you're the one who benefits. Your life will be longer. Your life will be better. Another verse, "My son, pay attention to my words. They are life to those who find them and health to all their flesh." Another, "Hear, my son, and accept my sayings, and the years of your life will be many." Solomon's principle is clear. Whenever you correct a child, it has to come from love. And that applies not only to children. Any criticism, if it is spoken out of anger, out of frustration, even in marriage, even if a person is saying the most justified claim and he is 100% right, but when the words are spoken in a hurtful, insulting way, it causes the other side to close up. But when it comes from love, and the other side knows, he loves me, and even when he rebukes me now, it comes from pain, not from hatred or strictness. The tone is not too loud. The wording is very gentle, only to convey the message. Let us look at a verse in the Torah where the Torah hints at something interesting through the initials. It is written that after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, Moses rebuked. The Torah says, "And Moses diligently inquired about the goat of the sin offering, and behold, it had been burned. And he was angry with Eleazar and Itamar, the remaining sons of Aaron, saying," Nadav and Avihu died there, and he asked, "What did you do with this goat?" We will not enter now into the laws and details of what happened, but they did not do as they should have done according to his opinion, and he rebuked them, the remaining sons of Aaron, saying, "Why did you not eat the sin offering in the holy place? Why did you not do as you were supposed to?" They answered him, "Because of what happened, we thought that in this case we should act differently But notice, the verse says, he was angry. There is rebuke here. There is anger apparently. But the commentators write here, pay attention to the initials. After all, the Torah has pshat, remez, drash, and sot. On the level of remez, there are acronyms, final letters, letter combinations, letter skips, wondrous things. People have repented just from seeing this, from seeing how full the Torah is, and it is impossible to say this is by chance. Statistically, it is impossible to produce this in such numbers, in such quantities, unless someone planted it there from the beginning, someone who knew the entire Torah completely and knew how to phrase it this way. This is only divine wisdom. A human being cannot do this. In the book A Journey to the Truth, we brought many of these codes in the Torah. These were studies that were done. Professor Rips passed away not long ago, and he spoke with me then. He was a mathematician with an international reputation. He said, there is no possibility from a probabilistic and statistical perspective to plant such things in the Torah unless it is a heavenly book written by a superhuman entity. A human being cannot do such a thing, and he proved it scientifically. But here it is not the majority of the letter skips that Professor Rips studied. Here it is acronyms. When we take the words of the rebuke of Moses to Eleazar and Itamar, what did he say to them? Why did you not eat the sin offering in the holy place? When you read the verse, and he was angry, you do not know in what manner he spoke. Did he scream at them? Did he shout? How did he behave? The Torah answers with the initials of the words. Why did you not eat? The initials Mem, Lamed, Aleph create a Hebrew word, Maleh, which means full in English. The sin offering in the holy place. Aleph, Hey, Bet, Hey, Ahava, love. The words he spoke to them came from a heart full of love. Why did you not eat the sin offering in the holy place? The initials, full of love. He is angry, he rebukes, but with a heart full of love. Even when correcting a child or in marriage, one must not at that moment lose the feeling of love that exists between husband and wife, and suddenly see the other side as if he were an enemy. Because the moment a person removes from his heart the love he has toward another person or toward the children, now I am angry, they hurt me, they did not do what I wanted, the rebuke will come with force, also in the wording, also in the body language, also in the tone. The other side, a child sometimes, can feel the father as if now he is a terrorist who wants to kill him. If you would say to the father, do you want to kill him? Heaven forbid. He would say, this is my son. So why are you attacking him like this? His inner emotional world tells him, you are coming at him like a terrorist. Look at your body language, at your tone, at your wording. When a person speaks correctly, with a feeling of love, this is true with children, and even more so with teenagers and young adults. If parents rebuke, sometimes a teenager does such foolish things that the parents lose their minds, and then they explode at him, and the child interprets this as, they are against me, and the home becomes like two camps, one against the other, like a coalition and an opposition. But if the parents speak to the child not out of anger, they speak with pain. There is a big difference if a child feels they are angry at him because of the foolish things he did, or if the parents are pained because of the foolish things he did. If they are pained, it means they love me. He sees the expression on their face. It is pained in sorrow. When a child sees the parents are sad, he identifies with them. He does not want to cause them sorrow. So he will do everything so they will be happy. But if he feels they are angry at me, enemies, then I have justification to act the opposite of what they want. And then he might do even worse things to anger them even more, because we have become two opposing fronts. This is a big principle, especially with youth, in the period of adolescence and in the young adult years. So too with married couples. Sometimes The parents are not pleased with the behavior of the son-in-law, of the daughter-in-law. The daughter married someone, and then they see that one side is pulling in a different direction, and there begins to be a disconnect from the parents. There are such situations in families. When they come to visit them, they can suddenly explode. I am speaking about real events. The daughter and the son-in-law came to visit the parents, or the son and the daughter-in-law came to visit the parents, and then the wife or the husband, who already carry in their hearts a burden of complaints about their behavior, that they did not come to visit for a month. On Sabbaths they disappear, or they call and they do not answer the phone, each one with his complaints. They attack them with anger. They must ask themselves, who is wise? He who sees what will come. If I now speak with anger, what will this cause? That they will truly correct it, or that they will become even more distant. Now they have a reason why they do not want to come. The son-in-law says to his wife, your parents shouted at me. What do you want that I should go there? They just interrogated me, humiliated me, so you gave them a reason not to come anymore. But when you speak out of pain, pain creates identification. You speak to them with sorrow. We understand you have your troubles. Don't forget, it's hard for us. We are alone on Shabbat. Come more often. We want to see the grandchildren. Each person uses his own words. When you speak out of pain, it creates more understanding. This is what it means when it says life and death are in the power of the tongue. And when King Solomon says the discipline of a father, it means always taking the example of a father, how a loving father speaks to his children, and learning from it for all forms of criticism in human relationships. Sometimes a child comes to the parents with a request. He didn't do anything wrong, but he comes with a request that, to the parents, sounds completely unreasonable, totally illogical. A child, 12 or 14 years old, is taking music lessons. He has a very, very important test coming up at school. A few days before the test, he comes to his parents and says, tomorrow the whole class is going on a half-day trip, and I want to go too. The parents feel he's not thinking straight. You have such a difficult, critical, life-changing test coming up. Every hour of study is essential, and you want to go on a trip. This is not the time. Some parents, the moment they hear such a request, immediately lash out. There's no way you're going, absolutely not, forget about it. And the child feels hurt. There are parents who go even further. They don't just refuse, they insult and humiliate the child. Are you crazy? Are you normal? Don't you realize you're talking nonsense? Where's your brain? Have you lost your mind? They insult and shame him. And what does this cause? Distance, resentment, rejection. But if you come to the child the right way, first of all, show understanding. I understand you. I understand that this trip is very important to you. This is true in marriage too, not only in parenting. When one side asks for something and the other side cannot accept it, first, show understanding. When you don't, the other side feels, he doesn't feel me, he doesn't understand me at all. When you show understanding, I understand you really want to go because all your friends are going. I understand you so well that I can even give you reasons why it would make sense to go. And the child calms down. They understand me. Then you can add, but think about whether you really want to go on this trip. You have a big test next week. If you don't prepare properly, you know what the results will be. There are big consequences. Think about it. You're 14 now. I trust you. Think whether it's really the right decision to go on this trip. When you lead the child step by step, he won't change his mind immediately. He'll answer, and the parents will guide him again. Think again, for your own good. You know I don't mind. but think about your future. When you bring the child to the point where he agrees to do what the parents wanted, but he feels he chose it, that is the greatest success in parent-child communication. They got him to do what they wanted, but he feels it wasn't forced on him. He chose it himself. Here in the list we brought, there are 7 messages that should be included in such conversations. The first message: the choice is yours. In the end, you will decide. We'll soon see what happens if, after all the guidance, he still chooses differently. But in the conversation, first of all, the choice is yours. The second point: we trust you to make a wise decision. You're a big kid now, we trust you. The third point: we made clear to you what the wise choice is. We showed you both sides and pointed out the better direction. The fourth point: we explained the reason. Why, in our opinion, is this the right choice? Point 5: the only consideration we had was your personal good. This is an important message. We learned it from King Solomon. What I am telling you is not for my own interest. The only goal is your benefit. Point 6: we understand the great difficulty you have in standing up to such a hard temptation. Showing understanding gives him strength. Point 7: we do everything we can to ease things for you by offering another possibility as compensation, even if it is not perfect. These 7 things give the child a lot of strength to handle the situation. What is compensation? For example, the money for the trip. We will give it to you so you can buy something tasty you like or some interesting game. Or instead of tomorrow's trip, we will arrange a makeup trip for you in 2 weeks. Give him the ladder to come down from the tree. Parents who deal with children this way, the children will remember it all their lives. How wise their parents were, how understanding, how much they loved them. Sadly, today, we hear from many young people who reach a certain age and have nothing but complaints about their parents. And when you hear the stories, you see that the parents were not bad people. They were good people, but they didn't know how to present things properly. They didn't know how to deliver the message. They meant well, but the child feels only criticism, humiliation, and harm. And it's a shame. A little bit of proper thought beforehand could have built healthy communication, even in marriage, when criticism is given correctly, with an expression of pain rather than accusations, instead of the husband saying to the wife, or the wife to the husband, "You are wrong, you are wrong, why did you do that?" The message should be, "I felt very uncomfortable when this and this happened yesterday. It hurt me to hear that said about me in front of everyone." Again, bringing pain, bringing hurt, makes it easier for the other side to identify with you. Let's return to the verse here in Proverbs. A wise son, the discipline of a father. If you see a wise son, it is thanks to the father's discipline that he acted like a father in the right way, with a healthy approach. But a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. King Solomon's verses here speak in contrasts, as we saw in previous lessons. The opposite of a wise son is a scoffer. What is a scoffer? Someone you can never talk to seriously. You talk to him about important matters. You guide him. You tell him what you're doing is wrong. You need to act differently. And he just mocks you. You can't talk to him at all. How does someone reach the point of becoming a scoffer, where you can't talk to him about anything because he mocks, and a scoffer does not listen to rebuke? In previous generations, this was less common, does not listen to rebuke. In our generation, it's more common that a child accepts no criticism at all. The parents are busy with their own matters, especially business people who are always busy. Thank God there's good income. They work from morning till night. No patience for the children. They come home tired, and the child, he's a person too. So they give him a screen, give him a device to keep him busy, give him toys, so he'll stay in his room, watch what he wants, do what he wants, bring friends, asks for something, right away they give him money, as much as he wants, because they want peace and quiet. This child never heard rebuke, never heard guidance. When he grows up, what do you expect from him? What kind of connection will he have with his parents? Where will he learn how to behave? Some parents rely on the education system. Why? Because it's called the Ministry of Education. And that's a big mistake. Heads of the education ministry themselves have said many times that the role of the school is not to educate, but only to give knowledge. In religious schools, it's completely different. There, you really see that education means education. They know in religious schools that the goal of the school is not just to give knowledge, but first of all, to build the child's character, and also to give knowledge. A child can't just sit all day doing nothing. He comes to school also to learn, to grow in wisdom. They give him a high level of study in all areas, both secular and religious, but they put emphasis on behavior, on conduct. When we were children in school, as we learned there in the Talmud Torah, the entire schoolyard, the halls, everywhere there were signs with sayings from Pirkei Avot. Who is strong? He who conquers his desire. Who is rich? He who is happy with his portion. Who is honored? He who honors others. For 8 years you saw these signs constantly changing. It penetrates the mind. It shapes the person's character. Today you go into schools. How many times have I gone in to give lectures in school auditoriums? It's shocking to see what they put on the walls, what examples they give them, who the role models are that they are supposed to admire. Whereas your eyes shall see your teachers, seeing the great sages of Israel, seeing the righteous, aspiring to be like them. These are things every wise parent must consider. Where to send the child, not just sending him to school so you have a few hours of quiet at home. And a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. If later you see bad results, know this is a child who in his childhood never received guidance, never heard rebuke. Some parents even see this as an ideal. Let him grow up on his own. Let him choose his own path. And that too is a mistake. The verse says, a wild donkey's colt is born a man. When a child is born, if he grows up without education, it's like a wild donkey. This verse was explained in 2 ways. One, as we just said, a wild donkey's colt is born a man. That's how man is born. The second, from a wild donkey's colt, a man can be born. Even someone who is like a wild donkey, you can make him into a man. If you educate him properly, give him proper guidance, proper teaching, you will see. A man is born. From this wild donkey comes a human being. When he grows up, you see him built differently. And I know personally children who, when they were young, were born with a very, very difficult nature. It wasn't easy with them, but the parents handled them properly, with guidance, with explanation, with understanding, with patience. But they didn't give up. They also educated. These children, when they grew up, today they are young men. You can't believe how they were as children and how they are today. Respectful, balanced in all areas of life. When you invest in a child, you see the results later on. The problem today is that many people are focused on themselves. Parents feel that just as I have a house, I have a car, I have a child, as if it is just one more thing that serves me in life. And many times they go on long trips and leave the children with relatives, with grandparents, and the child feels abandoned, that he is not precious to his parents. In previous generations, I think even adults here certainly remember their parents. What was the feeling of the children? That when I am with my parents, I am the center of their lives. I am not just one more thing in life. The children felt, I am the center of their lives. And so they were attached to their parents, loved them, and all communication rose to completely different levels. Let us move on to the next verse, which continues this idea. From the fruit of a man's mouth he will eat good, but the soul of the treacherous violence. What does it mean, the fruit of a man's mouth? A tree produces fruit. The mouth produces fruit. He says, know that your speech is like a tree that produces fruit. From the fruit of a man's mouth, the fruit that comes from a man's mouth. Why did he use specifically the word man? We will see in a moment. He will eat good. The man who invests will eat good. He will benefit from it. The Vilna Gaon writes that when the verse says man, ish, it refers to a person of high stature. Like it says, a Jewish man was in Shushan, the capital. We know he is a man and not a woman. So why does it say a Jewish man? Man means importance, a term of stature. That is why it also says about Noah, Noah, a righteous and perfect man. Man in the Tanakh always indicates importance. Therefore, it says here, from the fruit of a man's mouth, a person of stature, a person of importance, a person who knows how to conduct himself properly in his speech, the fruits of his speech he will eat good. If you now invest, you make the effort to think, how do I speak and how do I not speak? In the end, you will see that you only benefit. Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the great early commentators, adds here that King Solomon also teaches us that if we want well-educated children, we must ourselves be in the category of man, to be refined and educated ourselves, because the personal example of the parents influences the children more than any words of guidance. If a child sees the personal example of the parents, that in a moment of anger, he was with his father in the street, in a store, and he saw that an injustice was done to his father, and he knows that another person in this situation would have exploded, and he sees how his father with such dignity reacts, how he conducts himself, how he controls his words, how his attitude is toward other people. The child absorbs this for life. But if he sees that the father, when something displeases him, loses control, shouts, screams, the child copies him. If a child knows that his father guards himself not to watch improper movies, not to smoke things that are not good, then he takes from this the personal example that one must be careful about these things. But if he knows that the father does not control himself, his desires, then the son copies this for himself as well. And there is also here a great message for parents. A parent who does things that are not good, in speech, in behavior, must always ask himself, would I want my children to do what I am doing? If I would not want them to do what I am doing, then I must stop doing it myself, because otherwise it will pass on to them as well. How much can you hide from the children the things you do in secret? So even if not for ourselves, the parents, at least for the children, let us raise our level of behavior. And this is what he says. Afterward, you will see the results. These are the fruits of your speech, of your actions. From the fruit of a man's mouth he will eat good. And on the other hand, but the soul of the treacherous violence. A person who is in the category of treacherous, what is treacherous? One who betrays God. The Holy One, blessed be He, tells him to do this, and he does other things, even though he created us. So this person sees completely opposite results in the opposite direction, violence, as if everything in his hand is taken from him. He continues and says, as a continuation of these two verses, he who guards his mouth preserves his soul. He who opens wide his lips will have ruin. What is the difference between guards, shoma, and preserves, notzer? Notzer comes from the word utzar, a treasure. It is a higher level of guarding than shoma. A person who guards, you have something valuable. You guard it. But if it is very valuable, like diamonds, you do not only guard them, you preserve them. Netzer is like a treasure. Something close to you, you are very careful with it. And about this, he says here, He who preserves his mouth, meaning regarding your mouth, do not just guard it like a treasure. Preserve it. Be careful. Control your words, what you say, how you express yourself. He who preserves his mouth preserves his soul. You will benefit that your soul will be healthy your whole life, that your soul will be preserved. The Vilna Gaon, we will read his words. He writes here an interesting statement. It is a novelty, but he was a genius and knew what he was talking about. The Vilna Gaon, as is known, is Rabbi Eliyahu of Vilna, about whom there are wondrous stories regarding his genius and his wisdom. He has a commentary on the book of Proverbs. His students testified about him that his entire commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, when you open the Shulchan Aruch with the commentary of the Vilna Gaon, you see that for every section of Jewish law, there are sources at the bottom showing where it appears in the Talmud what the opinions of the early sages are and what the law is. His students testified that he wrote all of this quickly without opening a single book, everything only from his memory. When they would recite chapters of Psalms, today, someone who knows the entire book of Psalms by heart, that's impressive, right? It's honorable to know the whole book of Psalms. But they would tell him a chapter of Psalms and he would recite it from the last word back to the first word. Who can do such a thing? Only someone who has a photographic image in front of him. Because to read, you can read backward when you see the words. But to recite it by heart, you can only do that if it is imprinted in your mind like a picture. His memory, his genius, the depth of his thinking, it was extraordinary. There are many other extraordinary stories about him, but he also knew how to make use of time. That was really his greatness, that he never wasted a single minute. No one ever saw him idle, always with books, sitting and learning, sitting and learning. They tell that his sister came after 25 years. He had not seen her in 25 years. In those days there were no telephones, certainly no video calls like today, where you can talk whenever you want. She was in another country. After 25 years she came. They told him, "Your sister has arrived." He came out, said to her, "Welcome. I apologize that I cannot talk now. In the world to come, with God's help, we will have plenty of time. We will sit and talk." Then he went back to his books, and she was not offended. She knew. She knew who he was, how diligent he was. But that is what brought him to greatness, his scope of knowledge, his depth of learning. And on this verse here, he who guards his mouth preserves his soul. He who opens wide his lips will have ruin. The beginning of the verse says, he who guards his mouth preserves his soul. One who guards his mouth properly, not ordinary guarding, but preserving. A person who has control over his speech, he preserves his soul. But he who opens wide his lips, this means one who opens his mouth without restraint, will have ruin. Ruin means destruction, a fall, like someone falling into a pit, because he has no control over his speech. And the Vilna Gaon says, one who opens his lips without restraint, meaning he has no control over his mouth. Whatever comes into his head, he says, even if he has a good soul, he is a good person, he performs many commandments, and he sets up many safeguards for himself. But in speech he has no control. His mouth will bring him ruin. He says his own mouth will ruin his life. It will break everything for him. This is a person who observes commandments, does many good deeds, sets up boundaries for himself so he will not stumble. But he says, know this, the mouth has enormous power in every matter, and a person can, with his speech, destroy his own life. And we see this. We see people who have no control over their mouth. They end up in conflicts with everyone around them, conflicts with neighbors, with family. Eventually, it can lead to divorce. Not always, but many times unpleasant situations arise because of words spoken without restraint. Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the great early sages, writes on this verse the following words, I will quote them so we can see how they viewed the power of human speech. He who guards his mouth preserves his soul. He who opens wide his lips will have ruin. This ruin, he says, is like destruction for him. Rabbeinu Yonah writes, a person should fear the damage of his lips, just as he fears one of his enemies. He says, how do you fear your enemy? You see a terrorist. Of course you are afraid, right? He says, be as careful about the damage of your lips as you would be about one of your enemies, because the lips can harm a person just as an enemy can harm a person. An enemy can destroy a person's life. The lips can also destroy a person's life. And when we look carefully at the wording of King Solomon, he begins with the word mouth and then moves to lips. He who guards his mouth preserves his soul. He who opens wide his lips will have ruin. The mouth refers to the inner part. Lips refers to the outer part, like the shore of the sea, the outer edge. That is why when speaking about the one who opens wide his lips without restraint, he uses the external term, because this person is not careful. Words come out of him easily. Why did you phrase yourself like that? You hurt this person. You got into conflict with that person. You revealed things you should not have revealed. You stumbled into gossip and slander. How many friends who had been close for years broke off their friendship because one heard that the other spoke behind his back, and that one later regrets it. It was just the atmosphere among friends. I threw out a word. I repeated what he did or what he said. Why did you say it? To show that you know? To show that you're clever? But you lost a good friend because of that comment you made. And if that happens among friends, how much more so within a family? How careful one must be. It says about Aaron the high priest that he loved peace and pursued peace. When Aaron passed away, our sages say that at his funeral there were tens of thousands of young men named Aaron. Why did he merit that so many in Israel named their children after him, Aaron? They came out of Egypt. They were a nation of slaves. It takes much character work to rise above the mentality of slavery. A nation of slaves is full of tension, full of struggles for survival. It was not easy for them. There were many problems with marital peace. There were many conflicts between people. And Aaron the high priest, he did not spare his honor as the high priest, nor his time. He would go from one person to another making peace. He would come to one of the two people who had quarreled and were no longer speaking to each other. He would come to one and say, you know, the other one loves you so much. You were such close friends for so many years. Do you know how much he is hurting? How much he is in pain? He sits at home and says he doesn't understand how things reach this point with you, because he loves you. The person would hear that Aaron the high priest, this respected man, was speaking to him this way, and he would say, I'll tell you the truth, I also love him. But yesterday such and such happened, and then it turned into a fight. Aaron would say to him, you love him, he loves you, so why continue the fight? Let's make peace. He would answer, fine, if he agrees gladly. Aaron would run to the other one and say, I just came from him. He said he loves you. And now he quotes exact words. He said he loves you. He said so much. And if you agree, he really wants to make peace. He would bring them together. They would toast together, reconcile. Couples too, fighting, quarreling, refusing to speak. Aaron would speak to the husband, then to the wife. They love each other so much. Once, one of the great sages in the United States, the head of the Yeshiva Torah Vadat, said that people sometimes see the wedding photographer as a nuisance at the wedding, as if he is bothering them. He said, you should know the role of the photographer at the wedding is no less than that of the rabbi performing the marriage. Tell this to photographers when you meet them. It will make them happy. He is no less at the wedding than the rabbi who performs the marriage ceremony. Why? Because if you don't disturb him and he succeeds in taking beautiful pictures, sometimes people crowd around. The photographer wants to take pictures and they get angry at him for asking them to move. He said, if the photographer takes beautiful pictures, then 3 years later, 5 years later, when there is tension between the couple, they open the wedding album, they see how they looked then, how young they were, how in love, the smiles, it rekindles their feelings. That's marital peace. He is no less than the rabbi performing the marriage because he too brings couples together. When a person sets his mind to bringing peace and unity between couples, it is a great thing. And because Aaron the high priest brought back couples who were separated, couples who were already on the verge of divorce, and he reunited them, and then they had a child. They named him after Aaron. That child was born thanks to him. At his funeral, our sages say in the Midrash, there were tens of thousands of young men named Aaron, because he knew how to increase peace through his words. That is the power of speech. Most people in the world treat speech lightly because you don't see sound waves physically. They don't treat speech like a bomb that can blow up a house or like a hammer that can smash a table. Because physically, you don't see anything. It's just words. But King Solomon already said elsewhere, life and death are in the power of the tongue. Therefore, a person must give great thought to being in this category. As it says here, he who guards his mouth preserves his soul. A person who guards his mouth gains both this world and the world to come. We dedicate tonight's words of Torah to the protection of the people of Israel and the soldiers of Israel, wherever they are, and for all those present here and all those watching everywhere, that God should fulfill all the wishes of everyone's hearts for the good, with blessings, health, suitable matches, and good lives. Amen ve'amen.